Hey everyone, welcome back to the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. I am Mark. With me today in that direction, right there, is the lovely Val from Movies That Make Us and B97 here in 98.7 here in Salt Lake City. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing this on my lunch hour, so that's always a
Yeah.
fun way to talk about movies. Um, this actually is a movie that I didn't think I was going to watch. Because I didn't think that I would get to watch it early, and I didn't know if I wanted to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I didn't know that we were going to get to screen it. And then I was kind of like, do I want to go pay the money Thursday night and stay up late and watch it and try to review it on Friday morning?
Right. But a big film, and before I say the title, Venice Film Festival, standing ovation, Telluride. So it's been out there. Big critics and fancy schmancy audiences have seen it, and it is of course Spencer, starring Kristen Stewart, a take on the life of Princess Diana. Let me just start by saying the director of this, Pablo Larraín, also directed Natalie Portman in Jackie, which I did not see. And I bring that up not because I didn't see it, but because I grew up in a house, because I'm old. I grew up in a house where there were two things that were huge, and that was the Kennedys, and that was the royal family. My mother was huge into both. So they were there. This is just, it's another fancy schmancy lady, American royalty versus British royalty. How did an American actress get to play Princess Di?
I mean, I know a lot of people might be angry about that, but then you look at, all of the American, I guess, quote unquote, parts that go to people from the other side of the pond, I think we're fine.
Yeah. It just seems really weird that
it does
Princess Di.
weird. At first, before I had seen the movie, I'm not a huge fan of Kristen Stewart's. I feel like she kind of does the same thing over and over. And so when I saw that she got cast in this, I was like, okay, maybe she's trying to break out and do something new. So I'm a little excited because I do like when actors realize that they have a bigger potential and they and she's tried to do this before in a few other movies, but it just didn't work for me. And then I realized that what the story was, and that they needed a darker, angstier Princess Diana. And so who are you going to choose? A darker, angstier person than Kristen Stewart, because that's all she does is angst and kind of sadness and all of that stuff. But at the same time, yes, why don't we have a British actress? And we're going to get into it, but I understand that like all of these film festivals loved this movie and all of these like reputable critics loved this movie. I didn't love it.
I love that you say reputable critics as if we are somehow disreputable.
Well, I would say if you throw my name out into a pool full of international critics, probably I wouldn't be recognized. So there's more recognizable international
there you go.
critics that people tune into weekly from all over the world to see, what their thoughts are. And yes, I have a small circle of people that want to see what my thoughts are, whether they listen to them or not, I don't know. But I watched this last night at my house, and my 20-year-old daughter and my husband were watching it with me. And I know a lot about Princess Diana. I know a lot about a lot of histories, a history about queens and princesses. It's just a thing that I really like the Tudors. We can sit here and have like a Jeopardy about the Tudors. And so as I'm watching it, I know a lot of what's going on. But the regular everyday person who only knows about Diana, which is like the surface stuff that they get fed through media, which isn't a lot anymore because she's not prevalent in the media anymore. Maybe when one of her sons does something, her name comes up, but it was more like when we were kids is when things were happening, when we were younger. And so they didn't really know what was going on. So I would have to stop and kind of go through what's happening. And then when the movie was over, they felt like it wasn't finished. And then I had to turn on one episode of The Crown, which is when Princess Diana gets married. And that 1 hour episode of The Crown told them more about Princess Diana than this overly long movie did.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about what this movie is.
Okay.
It is a 3 or 4 day Christmas weekend.
It's a very prominent weekend in her life.
In her life, 1991-ish, where the troubles with Prince Charles have started, and the tabloids continued. Well, they've come to a head. How about that? And they're starting to come out into the more mainstream knowledge. And she has to decide how she's going to live her life from this point forward. So there's this weekend where they're out at Christmas with the Queen, and the family is there. Sarah Ferguson and Andrew are there, as well as the boys. And so so it's okay. So let's start. The title card coming in: a fable from a true tragedy.
Yes.
So this is. Every royal family is notoriously secretive, the Brits more than most. So this film takes what we know, and then kind of extrapolates and dramatizes what even they say what might have happened over the course of this weekend. And it's all basically, Kristen Stewart is in every shot because this is her story.
Yeah.
And so it's what she thinks, what she feels. How many times she vomits from her bulimia, which we only needed 1 or 2, and we got way more than that. But yeah, so it's the decisions that she comes to. Now, I have to admit that she's okay. Kristen Stewart is okay in this.
She doesn't suck.
No, she does not suck. She definitely has the pre-high profile, and I mean Diana was always high profile, but after this weekend, she becomes more charity, out front, high profile. But she's definitely got that pre-Diana breathiness, almost husky voice, tone of voice down, and those angsty looks, down and away. She doesn't like to look at people. She's got all those kind of mannerisms down, but it feels weird watching it because it's still an American actress playing British royalty, but and it's slightly different, than having Benedict Cumberbatch play a surgeon from New York as Doctor Strange, but she did okay, and I understand why people are talking about her.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons that the director and producers chose her to be in this role, because they wanted to make a very different take on Princess Diana. Her life was very, it was in the press all the time. There was always something salacious going on. And so if you want to pick an actress that's kind of going through similar things right now in her life, and your movie's going to get a lot of buzz, it's going to take the actress that a lot of people thought was, from the beginning, just like Diana, they talk about in, her life, is that when she first met the royal family, she was a huge hit. Everyone loved her. Yep. When Kristen Stewart first hit movies, I mean, she's at the Oscars, at a very, very young age, and people thought she was going to be the it girl. And then she did a few other things. Then she did Twilight, and she kind of got put in this kind of basket of things that she's been trying to crawl out of. But while at the same time, her personal life has been all over the tabloids. She just got engaged to her girlfriend this week, which, is kind of cool, that something's happening, but it's a really good fit if you want to mirror the image of someone that you're trying to portray. So I get all of that. And there were moments where I almost lost Kristen Stewart to Diana during the movie. There were a couple of moments where I didn't see Kristen. But there weren't enough moments for me. Do I think it was a really great performance by her compared to what she's done in the last 10 years. I sure do. I really do. There were moments where I saw Diana. There were moments where I could feel that those boys were her boys. You know, and I could feel that there was a lot of hurt and loss, and I got all of that. Her accent for me was a little too whispery, because Diana wasn't that whispery. She was very soft spoken at times, but she was also very rambunctious at that age. And she did have that kind of quiet, you know, voice, but I think it was almost too much of a whisper, where at some points it kind of took away from the performance for me. But I also kind of, this is me, I'm watching her mouth the whole time. And I felt like she kind of took her language classes from the school of Emma Watson. Her mouth was very much the same of, I'm going to watch a whole bunch of Harry Potter. And this is how I'm going to do it. And that's not to put her down. I mean, if you're going to practice from me, you know, that's what it is. And so the accent was okay. It was a little too whispery, but I have to say that the music in this film is what really, really struck me, and not always in a good way. So in the beginning, like when they first introduce you to the score of the film, and then they come into, you know, the big, it's not a castle that they're staying in, but the house that they're staying in that's bigger than anyone else's house. It's almost like the opening of The Omen. Like you've got a lot of strings going on. You've got a lot of, you know, and so they're making you feel like something ominous is to come. And that is how that music is the whole movie, is they're making you feel as crazy as she feels, and you're unraveling as much as she's unraveling. And when they have the title card with the fable, this movie is very Shakespearean to me, and he tries to do that a lot. There are a lot of moments where he's trying to make you feel like this is some, you know, Macbeth, Hamlet moment with dark, you know, entities behind every corner. And I wish they would have gone a little bit more in that direction, but I feel like there were so many metaphors that the movie wasn't finished.
Well, the Anne Boleyn, I don't know that you could have gone more toward the Anne Boleyn aspects.
Well, just make that your only metaphor then.
Right? Yeah, because otherwise you veer too far from her story, and then it just becomes this weird supernatural thriller kind of thing.
Well, that's kind of how I felt like they were going with the music, with the
the
horror film close-up. So in horror films, they get your face at a close-up. In drama, they kind of come here. In horror films, they almost come here so that your face looks a little bit more ominous than it is. And there, I counted almost like 10 of them, of her face like that. That with the music and all of her flashbacks and just really twisty and turny, you know, thoughts and motions. I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to feel.
Well, one can argue that she didn't know what she was supposed to be feeling. So
yeah.
And I get that, but I think the problem is that because the people that want, there's going to be two audiences that want to see this film. One is the Princess Diana people, and the other one is the Kristen Stewart people.
Yeah.
Now, I think the Princess Diana people are going to be predisposed to accept her version of events in this film, or her perceptions, not versions, her perceptions or as they present them to be hers, even though this is it's a mythological take on the story we can't possibly know. The Kristen Stewart people are probably not going to know enough about Diana, and they might find themselves in this weird middle ground where you're like, was it a horror movie, or is it, you know, what is it exactly? So it might play better to the more Diana oriented audience than the more Kristen Stewart oriented audience.
And I think I understood it a lot more because I knew what was behind all of these emotions that she was feeling, because, you know, she found out about, here's a little spoiler, the pearls are a big deal in the movie,
Right.
right? Is that okay that we talk
Yeah,
about
that's fine.
this? So, everyone knows, if you know anything about, Charles and Diana, is that he was with Camilla. If you know a lot about it, he was with Camilla before, during, and after Diana. There
Yep.
was no break with him and Camilla. Everyone around him knew it. Everyone around her knew it. She knew it going in, but she was a very young kid when she got married to him, with no way to say she didn't want to do this. And she really loved him, and she loved the idea of being a princess. And you get kind of swept into this big fantasy fairy tale, and then you get into the family and you can't get out. Like, it's just, this thing.
It's
And
like
so
it's like the mafia.
imagine going into a marriage, into a relationship, knowing that the person that you're marrying does not love you and is in love with someone else. And then you have to have children with this person. You have to be in the spotlight with this person. Everyone around you says it's fine with what he's doing because they're not doing anything about it. So basically they're saying it's
Right.
fine. So as this all comes to head, yes, during the movie, it's kind of the breaking point, the cracking point for her when she finds out that they both have the same present. She still is not any more special than this person when she is married, has children, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So, but now that it's more public, it's a little more heartbreaking for her. And she has already been having a lot of mental health issues leading up to this weekend for Christmas.
Yeah.
But going in, if you don't know anything about Diana, you just think she's showing up to this house. She's a little bit cuckoo. She has some mental health issues, and she's got an eating disorder. Why is she acting this way? Okay, yes, there's some infidelity, but why is it, if her boys are that old? Like, it's just, there's a lot of questions. So, like, I'm sitting there and I know all of the stories leading into, because I know a lot about her life. But my husband's sitting next to me on Google, like, trying to figure out what's going on. And so for me, this is one of the biggest reasons that this movie doesn't work for me, because I do think there were some great performances. I do love the fact that I felt as sick, nauseous, confused, irritated as she did. I really like when a director does that. But what I don't like when a filmmaker does is when they come out with their movie being pretentious, that they made a movie for 10% of the audience that is going to watch it. For me, the reason why I love films and I'm a film critic is because I want films to, yes, challenge me so that I can open up my mind to more that is out there, but also to be accessible for people that maybe wouldn't watch something like this. Give me a little bit more direction. Don't make me fill in so many points of the story that now I am trying to make a whole nother movie in my head to fill it. Again,
Right.
I didn't have to do that, but I'm answering questions the whole time I'm watching this movie from the two people that are watching it with me. And those two people are the people that are going to pay to go buy a ticket to this. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
they should feel like they understand something, not that it is a snapshot of a very small portion of her life. But I think it needed a little bit more. It felt like a little bit of an inside story, not an inside joke, but
Hmm?
we know this, but now all of these people out are listening, but they're only hearing a little bit of it. It just wasn't as accessible as I thought it should have been to
Right.
an entire audience.
Yeah, like I said, there's two camps, and one of them is going to be better off than the other. I watched it with my wife, and we got to the end, and she goes, "I liked the end," and I was like, "Yeah, like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the film is probably the best part of the film." But before that, you said pretentious. I didn't necessarily want to go there, but I did have that word in my head because there's a lot of it where it's just very, when I talk to Ryan, I use the phrase arty farty a lot. It's, which is a poor man's pretentious, but there's a lot of arty farty cinema in this film. And I think there's, you wanted more story. And I think maybe if we'd had a little less of that, the long drawn out scenes of the car on the road with those strings.
Yeah, give me a little more information than stuff that just fluff.
Right, exactly. And they could have cut back on that and given us some more, some more stories, even snippets of actual news coverage of the time would have, would have filled in
Anything
some of
to
the gaps.
fill in the regular audience. Like there was at some point where they're like, well, so who are all these people here? Like you're
Right,
assuming that we know who all of these people are. And so I know I'm using context clues
right,
that the people who would have been in this room, because they're not all of them are cast very well for the looks, right?
right,
If you look at the crown, and I am going to utilize that because I think right now, if we're going to watch anything about Princess Diana or the royal family, you're going to utilize the best thing out there, and that's the crown. The crown has told the stories to the best of their ability, to the point where they have made the royal family nervous because they have put so many correct things in their mythical
right,
entertainment story, but they also cast their characters impeccably to look almost exactly like the royal family that they're portraying. And so when you have something out there, you're automatically going to have an audience that compares together, right?
mm-hmm.
So I push pause for I don't know how many times during this movie, and when they're out there, once when they're in for Christmas, and I'm like, okay, this is da 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 da. These are all who all these people are. And then when they're out shooting, and I'm
Right,
like, these are all who these people are. And so again, you're assuming that we know too much. And sometimes I get really angry, and I know sometimes I get really angry that I feel like we're getting spoon fed too much of a story. Like, hey, like
right,
think we're a little bit smarter than we are. We can fill in the blanks. But I think this one, again, I am going to use the word pretentious because I feel like the movie wasn't made for me. And I am a fan of this style of filmmaking, and I am a fan of knowing about history and the royals.
mm-hmm.
I'm not a royal fanatic. I don't have any like napkins with the royal family or like cups,
And a
but
lot of Americans do.
they do. And I'm not putting that down, but for me, I really like to know the history of things and
Right,
people and what's going on. Um, I am going to use the word pretentious. It was almost like I really need to make an artsy film, a film for filmmakers. And this is usually what gets nominated, is an art house film that stretches it. And again, there were some moments that were great, but again, I don't think this film knows what kind of film it is.
mm,
I think that the people that are going to say that they absolutely love it are going to love that he took some big chances, and that's fine. I've liked a movie because it's taken chances and it's not the best movie out there.
right,
But I feel like you've taken a topic that had that should already have a huge audience response, and you've put a gate around it and said, no, you can't come in here.
yeah. There's a couple parts. I call them. It's always Oscar bait movies.
Yeah.
This is an Oscar bait movie. That's not to say that Kristen Stewart shouldn't be considered. I really enjoyed Timothy Spall
Yeah. Yeah.
in this film. He's just that guy that pops up everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's go Harry Potter. He played Peter Pettigrew the rat.
He did look like he was eating a lemon almost the entire
But
movie.
I think that's his default expression.
But I think it suited his character.
Yeah.
And I did like a lot of the shots, when she's in the walk-in refrigerator that I also wanted to be in because it all looked delicious and I love
Right.
food. I thought that was a really smart scene, and it was shot fantastic because you've got her at first looks very big and vast, and you've got all this food everywhere, and it's almost overwhelming to her petite body. And then when he enters in the back, it's now this long hallway, like thing.
Right.
And then it kind of closes in on her. Again, these are shots of a more suspense film, which that's what they're trying to build. Because usually if you go to like a Princess Diana or royal family movie or film,
Mhm.
it's going to be kind of light and whatever. And so I do like that take, and there were some things that I thought were really fantastic. But all in all, when my husband, who has seen a lot of movies with me over the past season, we stop it him and my daughter both say that's it, and then he never has a headache. He's like, I literally need to go take Tylenol. That movie gave me a
Well, a lot of that I think was the score, because those strings did become a little
it was.
grating.
And I do love how they gave us a break at the end. As soon as she was free,
Yep,
as soon
pop
as she
music.
was free, you got that 80s pop song that we all know. And we started singing along. Like, that's who we are, you know? Like, so again, there were some moments. I can see why it's getting nominated. It's not going to be my pick of the week this week. And I just think I wanted it to be a little more accessible. I do think that you can make an art house film, you know, a nominated film that is different, off the beaten path, that is more accessible than I think this film was made.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and leave that there. This film was basically shot and distributed this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think they said they started principal photography in January or something.
Okay.
So but to be fair, really it's a lot of background extras and like 3 or 4 actual actors that talk.
Yeah.
So yeah,
once you get down to it, there weren't a lot of locations, and she's in, like you said, she's in pretty much every shot.
right. So it was a very fast project, because I think it didn't even get it was greenlit last year.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, if I remember, yeah, it was pretty quick. So you figure it was greenlit during the pandemic and shot during the pandemic. I mean, that's amazing. And now it's here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a quality film, but I think it is it's very tailored to the audience that it's going to appeal to. This is not going to open 3,000. Well, it might open 3,000 screens, but I don't know that it needs to open 3,000 screens.
Yeah. I think because of what it is, and what the subject matter is, a lot of people are going to go in thinking it's one thing, and then it's going to be something else. And I think maybe that's the sticker shock, is maybe because I try not to know, except for Marvel films, like what I'm going into, just so that I have that open mind, you know, and that just might hurt it. Sometimes it does, when people have a certain idea of what they're about to see, especially with The Crown out there right now and just getting off of the season with Princess Diana. We already have something in our mind that we're thinking we're going to see, and then, you know, we don't necessarily see it. Again, I have mixed feelings about it. It's not my pick of the week. There are some things that I love about it, but all in all, I just wish it would have been more accessible to a broader audience.
Yep. There you go. That's what's most disappointing, is that it should be more widely appealing, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be. So that is it. That is Spencer. That opens tomorrow in theaters, exclusively in theaters, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you're a Kristen Stewart fan, you're probably going to see a different performance than you're used to seeing. If you're a Diana fan, you're probably going to see a different Diana than you're used to seeing. If you're a Crown fan, don't go see it, according to Val, apparently.
No,
I don't watch The Crown.
No, you should, because you will know why all the crazy is happening, but don't be alarmed while the people around you might look like they have no idea what's going on.
There you go. Okay. That's fair. We'll go with that. We've got some more movies coming out next week. Perhaps Val will be back to talk to us about those. But if not, she is welcome back anytime she wants.
Thank you.
No problem. You're always fun to have. So until next time, I'm Mark. That's Val. Bye, Val.
Bye. Thank you.
And we'll talk to everyone later.